From in and around the Capital Region on the Alive Radio Network, this is The Matter at Hand. I'm Alicia Purdy.
Never give in to the devil's curse. If you do, you'll always find something worse. If the people wanna put you down, go where all the marigolds are found. Tomorrow's sun is gonna shine so bright. Everything is gonna be alright. Everything is gonna be alright. Never give in to the devil's curse.
An original song written and performed by John Hinckley Jr., the man who attempted to assassinate President Ronald Reagan 40 years ago, now has a sold-out concert on his calendar as he attempts to reinvent himself after being released from prison. Hinckley's music career kicked off in the summer of 2021 when a YouTube video that he posted of himself singing an original love song went viral. To date, Hinckley has nearly 30,000 subscribers and more than 844,000 views on his YouTube channel.
Hello everybody, hope you're doing great. I just posted my latest single. The song is called The Places I Have Been, and that makes 26 songs of mine that I have on the streaming site, so check them out when you have a chance. This is one of those 26 songs I'm going to play for you right now. You're in my dreams most every night. You're still looking fine, high up on a pedestal.
In an interview, Hinckley said he wants to use his music to make a new name for himself and no longer wants to be, quote, the guy who tried to kill Reagan. Hinckley was granted court permission to publicly display his artwork, writings, and music under his own name in October 2020 after a new assessment of his mental health showed he had sufficiently recovered his sanity. In April 2021, Hinckley's attorney used the same assessment to file for his unconditional release, which was approved a few months later. In response to news of Hinckley's sold-out concerts, the Reagan Foundation issued a statement saying they were saddened and concerned about Hinckley's unconditional release and his plans to pursue a music career for profit, noting that he was not only responsible for shooting President Ronald Reagan in the lung on March 30th, 1981, but was also responsible for the shooting of 3 other brave men, one of whom became paralyzed and died of his injuries years later. The Reagan Foundation said they strongly oppose Hinckley's release into society where he'll be free to profit from his infamy, and they said when someone shoots a United States president, they should never ever see the outside of prison walls. The statement comes as Hinckley's presence on social media grows ever larger in a world where generations have grown up who don't know Ronald Reagan or remember his transformative presidency, let alone the shooter who tried to murder him, who is now set to embark upon his John Hinckley Redemption Tour all summer long.
One had shot fired, or some injuries, way one on. Rawhide is okay. Follow up, Rawhide is okay.
There are many people, I suppose, it's hard to understand, but there may be many people around the country who are just learning of the tremendous events of this day. It is now 5 minutes after 7 o'clock on the east coast of the United States. The police, who are swarming all over one man now, are after a man who has been identified as John Hinckley. He had somehow moved into an area that was reserved for the press. He will be arraigned later tonight. He is 25 years old, 4 persons wounded, including the President of the United States.
At the hospital, President Reagan was overheard to have said, "Sorry, honey, I forgot to duck." He spent 11 days in the hospital and he nearly died, the bullet barely missing his heart. He did not speak often about the incident in the years afterward, although President Reagan did briefly note his gratitude before a joint session of Congress several months later.
I'd like to say a few words directly to all of you and to those who are watching and listening tonight, because this is the only way I know to express to all of you on behalf of Nancy and myself our appreciation for your messages, your flowers, and most of all, your prayers, not only for me, but for those others who fell beside me.
Hinckley was 25 years old at the time and was ruled not guilty by reason of insanity, and he was ordered to be confined to a mental hospital for the rest of his life. Yet now a federal judge has ruled that Hinckley can move on with his life after showing no additional signs of mental illness over the past 4 decades. Hinckley had confessed to shooting President Ronald Reagan to impress 80s actress Jodie Foster, with whom he had become obsessed since seeing her perform in the movie Taxi Driver. Hinckley's lawyer called his release a win for mental health care. After the decision to release John Hinckley from the mental institution, Ronald Reagan's son Michael issued a statement on Twitter saying, "My father forgave Hinckley and would approve. Therefore, so do I." However, Reagan's daughter Patty Davis did not agree with her brother's sentiment and wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post saying she will always picture Hinckley's cold eyes, and said that shooting her father didn't just affect her family, but affected the entire country.
That people don't understand how dramatic the day really was. They don't understand that the president's life hung in the balance of an inch, a split-second decision, and a split second itself.
Del Quinton Wilbur is an award-winning investigative journalist who wrote the best-selling book Rawhide Down: The Near Assassination of Ronald Reagan, which captivated the nation with its minute-by-minute, highly detailed narrative of the harrowing day that President Ronald Reagan, codenamed Rawhide by the Secret Service, became the only serving U.S. president to survive being shot in an assassination attempt.
The president's life, if not for the heroic actions of the Secret Service agents at the scene and the doctors and the nurses at GW Hospital, he would have died.
According to United States law, the prosecution does not need to prove motive in a presidential assassination plot as long as the act was intentional, as in Hinckley's case. Anyone found guilty of assassinating the president or anyone in his cabinet faces either life in prison or the death penalty. As in the case of President McKinley's assassination, the self-described anarchist Leon Czolgosz, who was also tried under an insanity defense and was found guilty within half an hour, sentenced to death, and executed by electrocution in Erie County, New York, 6 weeks after his crime in 1901. There have been attempts or plots to assassinate 18 U.S. presidents and 4 successful assassinations. In addition to President McKinley, other presidents who have been killed while in office are Abraham Lincoln, James Garfield, and John F. Kennedy. President Lincoln's assassin John Wilkes Booth fled the scene and was later killed during a manhunt while his co-conspirators were convicted and hanged. President Garfield's assassin Charles Guiteau was convicted and hanged 9 months after the president's death. Finally, President John F. Kennedy's alleged assassin Lee Harvey Oswald was murdered by a vigilante after Oswald was apprehended by federal officials. As for assassination attempts, John Fleming Schrank, who shot President Theodore Roosevelt in the chest, was kept in a mental institution until his death in 1934. Richard Lawrence, who attempted to shoot President Andrew Jackson, was likewise found to be insane and was confined to a mental institution until his death in 1861. Oscar Collazo, who attempted to kill President Harry S. Truman in 1950, was convicted in a federal trial and received the death sentence. However, President Truman commuted Collazo's death sentence to life in prison, and in 1979, President Jimmy Carter further commuted Collazo's death sentence to time served, and he spent the rest of his life in his native Puerto Rico, operating within numerous anti-government movements.
I've got the bruises to prove I was there. It's good to know there are people who care. Unlock your heart, the sun's in the sky.
In a letter sent before his attack on President Reagan, Hinckley, now 66 years old, wrote that his hope was that Jodie Foster would look into her heart and at least give him the chance, with his historical deed, to gain her love and respect. As part of his hearing to acquire permanent unconditional release from any future oversight, Hinckley's lawyer said his client wished to express his profound regret to Foster and his other victims. However, Jodie Foster has repeatedly turned down any request to speak publicly about the situation, saying only that the scarring she had experienced at 17 years old from the nightmare didn't compare to what Hinckley's other victims and their families were experiencing.
Mr. Hinckley will be monitored, as he has been over the years. There are very few conditions of the order that's in place now.
Although the Department of Behavioral Health said Hinckley posed a low risk for future violence and will be given a 9-month trial period to see how he fares living on his own without help, the Justice Department may reconsider his release if concerns arise.
I think John has done exceedingly well over a long period of time. His disease is in full remission. He's done nothing dangerous. There have been multitude of risk assessments, and the risk of danger is exceedingly low.
In his book entitled The Diary of a Person We All Know, John Hinckley, who now wants to distance himself from the reputation as the man who tried to kill Reagan, once wrote that he regretted his actions, yet felt satisfied and accomplished that he tried to commit murder. Another one of President Reagan's children, Ron Reagan, told Dateline NBC that his worry was that Hinckley's narcissistic personality disorder would be affronted by somebody, or that he would not get the respect or attention he felt he deserved and would act out again in a violent way. For his part, Hinckley reportedly told his mental health team that he was, quote, happy as a clam, although he struggled to make close friends or develop romantic relationships.
Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing great. I'd like to say that I'm starting a record label. So if you feel like you would like to be on this label of mine, if you want to submit a demo, you can do that. Just send in a CD or cassette demo. I hope you all have a great 2022. It's got to be a better year. And y'all take care. Bye-bye.
According to interviews from the past, John Hinckley had always sought fame, hoping as a younger man to one day achieve that fame as a singer-songwriter, reaching out to numerous outlets for a record contract over the years, eventually deciding to form his own label, Emporia Records, after no one was interested. His now sold-out tour will take place at small venues throughout New York City in summer 2022. But who exactly is buying tickets to a show where a violent psychiatric patient plays an out-of-tune guitar and sings without irony about love in a world where he attempted to murder a sitting U.S. president? On Hinckley's Twitter account, comments are largely positive, with numerous well wishes, invitations to appear on podcasts, offers to share a cigar together, to travel and perform across the U.S. and around the world, calling Hinckley a hero, posting their praise on a social media platform that evolved well after Reagan's generation.
You're in my dreams most every night. You're still looking fine. High up on your pedestal, I'm so glad you're mine.
The surprising pop culture icon status currently burgeoning for John Hinckley Jr. has caught many off guard, especially considering that he came close to shooting President Jimmy Carter during his re-election campaign, but lost his nerve only to later attempt to kill President Ronald Reagan, leading many to question the confounding social embrace of such a person. Are there any lines left in the United States that one can cross at a point of no return? What is the penalty one should pay for the attempt, successful or not, at murdering a United States president? Is there an expiration date on justice or punishment for such actions? Do changing times and shifts in cultural perspectives demand a reevaluation of consequences? Or should there always be an objective standard by which presidential assassins are held to account for their actions? Or is it simply a matter of redemption, as John Hinckley says he deserves?
Well, I don't know what is wrong with this world. I wanna see some love. Everybody's fighting here and there. I wanna see some love. Can't we get along all day long? Think it's time we do. Can't we get along all day long?
Examining the issues that pertain to the people of God. This is the matter at hand. From in and around the Capital Region, on the Alive Radio Network, I'm Alicia Purdy.